the depth of the breathing. How far can you take the oxygen, the nitrogen, the hydrogen, the carbon into your nervous system on the inhale? If I told you you could inhale for minutes right now, you would probably say, no, I can't. But you can. But you have to want to feel more. And when we're stressed mentally, the last thing we want to do is feel those thoughts. And then we're stuck in the same cycle, the dog chasing its tail. So feel your thoughts. Use the body as a way of authenticating your intention. And is that what you want to happen? Or is it not what you want to happen? Everybody's living life one breath at a time. There's nobody on the planet taking 2 breaths at a time. Life is about QOL, quality of life. What is the vibrancy of your brain? What is the vibrancy of your heart? Are you passionate about what you want to do? This length, depth, and pace is very important to stalling aging in every single department of the human mechanism. As we breathe, there's an autonomic function that takes place. And breath is one of the few autonomic responses that we can control if we wish. But if we don't want to control, the body and the brain will breathe on its own based on what you perceive as happening in that moment. If you're thinking fear or there's danger in the brain, you naturally will, your blood pressure will beat faster. If you're peaceful, compassionate, open, your breath will naturally be a little slower. The idea is taking less breaths per minute. Less breaths per minute. Consciously, breath regulation is going to stall aging in the brain. Because at the end of the day, there is no other health besides mental health. You can have all the six-pack abs you want and win all the races you want, but the brain runs the show. And transcending your inner critic is one of the biggest challenges that you have in your life, in your interpersonal dialogue. So it's really important to have a large reserve of relaxed autonomic energy that keeps you in a place where you're always growing. Traditionally, what we're looking at here is the right nostril on the inhale is parasympathetic, the right nostril on the inhale is sympathetic, and it feeds the left prefrontal cortexes, which is where we cognitively take action. The left nostril on the inhale is parasympathetic, and it feeds the right prefrontal cortex, which is more relaxing feeling. It's more intuitive. It takes things that haven't happened yet and it brings it over to the left, and you sort through the maps that you use to create the world and the world that surrounds you. And this rotates every 3 hours or so into our circadian and ultradian rhythms of nature that keep us at peace internally. It's really important not to beat yourself up as this cycle goes through the day. On the inhale, you're going to feel a little aroused. That's good. And on the exhale, you're going to calm down a little bit. And, calming down and rebooting, we heard some of this today. It's important to calm down and reboot the system as much as you can. Controlling the breath, breathing through the nose, the diaphragm. We have enough suction coming through the nostrils that's going to push the diaphragm vertically down. When we breathe through the mouth, the diaphragm moves, but it predominantly only moves east and west. And more muscles have to chip in to give you good posture, to conserve energy, keep your heart rate down, keep your blood pressure down. So focus on this nostril breathing and get some good posture. And remember, these little breath retentions like we just did there, psychologically we know that mild stress, not the stress epidemic that we see today, mild forms of stress actually force the brain to rethink its position. So when you stop breathing for a second or two, you can pause for a moment and you can see, is this what I want to set in motion? You notice you also get a little cardiovascular activity. Not a big hit of cardio, you just bring the heart rate up a little bit. And there's your heart rate variability science. Fundamentally, how much parasympathetic activity do you have in your nervous system and bloodstream? And when we have strong heart rate variability health, there's a greater space between heartbeats. And when there's a greater space between the heartbeats, the brain loves this from a neuroplastic standpoint. When we breathe fast and the heartbeats are right next to each other, the brain will usually revert back to an old subconscious or unconscious behavior that we were using when we were children to either attack, defend, or escape any type of responsibility. Alternate nostril breathing. You want to try it? Sit up tall. Bring your right hand up to your face and take your thumb and close off the right nostril. Now slowly inhale up the left nasal channel, and there's a flow of energy moving into the right hemisphere of the brain. Take one of your fingers, close off the left nostril, release the thumb, and exhale the waste slowly out the right. And then slowly inhale up the right. Notice there'll be a spike in the thinking. Close off the right, release the finger, exhale left. Sit up tall. Come on. Inhale left. Close off the left, release the thumb. Exhale slowly out the right. Inhale right. Close off, release, exhale left. Now inhale left, hold the breath in for 2 seconds. Go into that space fully and be you. Close off the left, release the thumb, exhale right, and hold the breath out for a moment. Stop the mind right there. Inhale right. Hold the breath in for 2 seconds. Stop the mind. Authenticate the voice and picture in your head. Close off the right, release the finger, exhale left. Bring the right hand down. Now inhale, stand up. Hold the breath in and squeeze your core. Exhale, sit back down slowly with control. Inhale, slowly come up. Hold the breath in, squeeze your core. Feel your emotional intelligence. Exhale, sit back down. One more. Inhale, up. Diaphragm down, body coming up. Hold. Draw the core, feel your emotional center. Exhale, calm down, sit back down. Close your eyes, let your head move around this room, release any tension around your voice box, any tension around your cervical spine, and just be fully present for yourself. And when you're ready, open your eyes. This is basically a new science, this respiration science, and a lot of the science that's been coming up around breath studies, it's all on my website. So I want to keep you guys up to date with this new science because it's extremely powerful in cutting the gap between your intention, what you want to happen, and manifesting it. And when you begin to work with breath, that gap closes in time and you get what you want faster. So pay attention to what you want. Diaphragm muscle. We're talking about stabilizing the low back and increasing your ability to eliminate what doesn't work for you in your life, whether it's physical or emotional, but getting it out through your tissue. Your lower body mechanics. When you're talking about core, there is no deeper muscle in the body than the diaphragm in regard to connecting your lower body mechanics. So your brain sees that in regard to what you're doing up here. When we lose our inspiratory muscles, or muscles of inhale, fatigue begins to set in. And when fatigue sets in, we revert back to the way we were years ago. And that's simply not good enough anymore. You've got to be on it today so that tomorrow's better than today. And when you can learn one new thing every day, you're way ahead of the pack. And when you learn one new thing every day, it's okay to forget one thing that no longer serves you too. Lighten that carriage. Life is an endurance event. This isn't a speed event. Slow down. Life has little intervals of speed, but predominantly it's endurance event and your fuel is fat. If you want to burn fat as a fuel, you have to take less than 12 breaths a minute. One of the ways you can do that, there's a tradition or a technique in the yoga tradition called the ocean sounding breath. Bring one of your hands up to your face and pretend it's a mirror and just fog it. Close your eyes and use the left side of your brain and try to identify where that tone is coming from. You'll find it above the trachea. It's a piece of cartilage called your glottis or epiglottis. Have you identified it? Bring your hand down, close your eyes, contract that area that you just heard in your mind's ear, and you'll hear a sound form in your throat. And notice now the length of your breath has dramatically grown. the pace of your breath has dramatically slowed down. You're humidifying this dry air before it comes into your body. Remember, when we exhale, the exhale is almost 100% humidity. Let's try to get that on the inhale so that steam, you ever been in the steam shower? Your pores open, it goes deeper into your cells. And where oxygen touches, cancer can't set in. There's a lot of science about the vagus nerve, and one of the fastest ways to activate this nerve is optimal breathing. We need to have a lot of serotonin in the body during the day so that it's easy for us to fall asleep at night, because the serotonin is a prerequisite for the melatonin, but the body stops secreting the melatonin at 2 o'clock. And everybody wakes up and they get the monkey mind going, and oh God, tomorrow I'm going to be exhausted. So if you have a lower heart rate during the day, and there's not as much cortisol and adrenaline in your body, less acidity in your day, you're going to have more serotonin, less free radicals in your system, so that your brain can do the maintenance work that it needs at night to file things, so that when you get up the next day, you're more aware than you were on Friday. Heart rate variability lowers heart rate and blood pressure. It's all about stalling aging. We all have a ton to live for. And wherever we can identify physical, mental, emotional, spiritual choices that we've been making that are aging us, we have to turn back to that and try to make these corrections with great skill. Learning how to use the whole brain in today's world. You know, we have the left brain, which is very Western, even though it's used in the East, and we have the Eastern brain, which is very, relaxed and intuitive, and things move slower, and there's more of a feel to nature. But we need to use both cortexes. The breathing is a huge role in regard to you identifying which nostril is more open, where are you getting your information from the brain at that point. So it allows you to have a less stress-free day. If you're trying to work with numbers and your left nostril is more open than your right, it's going to take you a split second longer to identify the math. And most of the time, when we can't get the answer we want right away, we panic. Our heart rate goes up. We start to get angry. If you're trying to create a new paradigm for yourself, and your right nostril is more open than your left, it's going to be very hard to do that because your left prefrontal cortex is always working on rhythm and rotation, consciously, subconsciously. Everything that hasn't happened in your life is coming from the right cortex. It's coming down across the center of your stage, and it'll be integrated into the left, and you'll apply thoughts and words to manifest that. When you can relax, look into that right prefrontal cortex. There's no words or numbers there. There's just opportunity. And how much of that opportunity can you move into to make this moment the best moment of your life, and then the next moment of your life, until all there is there's a consciousness that everything in my life is happening for my benefit. I have a theory that when there's issue in our life, or there is self-doubt, or we're in conflict with another person, the old way of dealing with this is the breath would get short, we'd start to hyperventilate, the HPA axis would kick on, and it would either be a fight or flight response. And sometimes the cap was just off the toothpaste. It really wasn't worth putting all that emotion into being right or attacking someone or whatever. Through this breathing and healing our immune system and keeping the brain constantly evolving your skill sets and your desires, when there's conflict in our life, why can't we have the hypothalamus signal the pineal gland for serotonin? So there's a moment of compassion, not only for you, but the person you're with and everybody on the planet, that if you're trying to get things done in your life, there's going to be resistance. If you're a result-oriented person, the universe doesn't reveal its secrets to you very, very easily. You're going to have to surrender some things along the way. So having the serotonin, the pineal gland, and maybe even transcending, getting into this hypothalamus, into the hippocampus. So I'm really interested in the science that's taking place on that. There's a lot of talk about flow, and flow initially was used for athletes. How could we get into flow? And one of the things I do through breath control is how do we create the right atmosphere, the right atmospheric conditions? Like we have for a rainbow, we have certain atmospheric conditions. Well, the rainbow for the human brain is flow. And this is something I'm doing a lot with corporate professionals today, so we can evolve where you've been and increase your revenue while at the same time keeping stress level and medical bills down. So for me, it all begins with the diaphragm moving down. We're getting the serotonin and we're getting dopamine from the gut. So you got 2 of the 5 already out of the way. Now, these endorphins and opiates that come from the brain, you're going to have to deal with surrender. You're going to have to let go of things that no longer serve you. And this is where these endorphins and opiates are going to help you hang in there with the experience. You're going to have your anatomine, which is a cross-lateral molecule, which allows you to get information from both cortexes, and it thickens it really enlivens the corpus callosum, which is a series of matted nerves, which basically give you 2 television sets or 2 brains in one skull. And as the corpus callosum electricity becomes stronger and the anatomine allows you to get information from both sides of your brain, you're using your whole brain. And when you're using your whole brain, chances are you're going to be a lot more successful than someone across from you who's using half their brain. And we all know what norepinephrine does. So the benefits of breath. You're going to live longer. You're going to smile more. You're going to love more. You're going to have better sex. Everything is going to get better when you have a relationship with breath. Inflammation reduction is huge in regard to stalling degenerative disease and keeping everything alkaline. The more alkaline your blood is to some degree, the easier it is for your heart to pump a thin, transparent fluid than a thicker, acidic fluid with toxins and bacteria and viruses attached to it. The breath has been used for thousands of years to gateways to deeper states of consciousness. You want to call it meditation, concentration, relaxation, self-regulation, call it what you want. But you're going to have to turn off the inner critic to get behind that inner critic and love what you hate about it. And then when you love what you hate about it, there's no one to be at war with. We want to blend these 2 prefrontal cortexes. When we can turn off time in the left prefrontal cortex, it's an amazing tool in regard to you achieving what you want. Neuroplasticity is available to us all the time. Transformation is available to us all the time. And when you're using the breath and you're athletic, it's great in regard to minimizing the joint injuries, the low back injury, the destruction of the skeletal muscle and tissue, because you always want to get the greatest workout as possible with the lowest heart rate as possible. So the lower heart rate you have, the more power, sustainable power you have to work with your brain past the places where we used to stub our toe in the past. So the lower the heart rate, the more power you have for the brain. The more power you have for the brain, the greater ability you're going to have to control your neuromuscular skeletal system. There's a lot of research on my website. Got a great book coming out. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming out. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you, man.
That was terrific. Thank you,
man.
sir.